So, good morning for PG readers. We are going to be starting our mythology readings and activities. And before we jump into our story of Icarus and Daedalus, we just want to provide you with a little bit of information about Greek and Roman myths before we jump in. So, I'm going to read this to you. Please follow along. Introduction to Greek and Roman myths. The ancient Greeks, like many peoples, tried to explain the mysteries of nature and how things came to be. They lacked the scientific knowledge that we have today. So they created many gods and goddesses, powerful beings who rule storms, seasons, stars, the growing of things, love, death, and everyday life. According to the Greek myths, the gods and goddesses lived on top of a mountain that was too high for people to climb. The mountain was called Olympus. The gods and goddesses often visited Earth, sometimes disguised as animals or people. People built temples dedicated to these gods and goddesses. They left offerings and prayed in the temples for the help of the gods and goddesses. Often homes would have a shrine dedicated to a god or goddess. As with all stories that are told, myths grew and changed through the years. Some of the Greek myths and legends were written as early as 750 to 700 BC. When the Romans conquered the Greeks, they took over the Greek gods and goddesses. They gave them Roman names. Here are some of the names of Greek and Roman gods and goddesses and other characters mentioned in any book that you read. Roman names are written in parentheses. So here are some of the Greek and Roman gods and goddesses mentioned in the book that I got this information from. The Roman names are written in parentheses. So you'll see Aphrodite, her Roman name is Venus, the goddess of love and beauty. And you might have heard of a story about Aphrodite, Athena, Demeter, Eros, the god of love. Oh, the Roman name is Cupid. Where do we know this person from? Valentine's Day, Cupid, god of love. So maybe that's why they developed a story to explain how love happens. So see where this is going? Then we have Juno, we have Mercury, Medusa. This is the woman with the snakes for hair in her head. We have a Minotaur, which is a creature who's half bull and half man. Oh, look, nymphs, female spirits of nature. We talked about nymphs in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Then we have Persephone. We have Hades, or Pluto, the king of the underworld who ruled the dead. Zeus, Jupiter, who ruled Olympus and hurled thunderbolts when he was angry. So you may be familiar with some of these characters and some of these stories. Related to Daedalus and Icarus, we have the word labyrinth. So now this is a labyrinth made of bushes and shrubs and trees. A labyrinth is a kind of maze. The one that we're talking about in this particular story is beneath a palace, and it's made of stone. So the walls are stone. They're not grass or shrubs. Then we're also going to have a character that's a minotaur, and this is the minotaur here, the big red bull-looking animal. The minotaur is a big animal on the left. It's part bull and part man, according to the text. So this is just some information that will be helpful to you get a picture in your head when I'm reading the story to you. Now, the story takes place in Crete, which is located in Greece. These are just some sample pictures that I found of Crete. And I also wanted you to see where Greece is located on a map. But remember, this is taking place a very, very long time ago. Now, this could be an image of a tower in which Daedalus and Icarus were being held by the king. I just wanted you to notice that, it's they're up high, they're close to the sky, they're separated from everybody, and then the labyrinth is located below the castle. Not this particular one, but just so you have an image in your head. As we're reading this story, this myth, they're going to be talking about how Daedalus and Icarus layered the feathers to make wings. So I want you to notice what they're kind of explaining, that the feathers overlap each other and they're put together with wax. So this is kind of what the wings would look like when they mention it in the text. So vocabulary needed in this particular story. They mention the word architect, and an architect is a person who designs buildings and in many cases also supervises their construction. A labyrinth. In Greek mythology, the labyrinth was an elaborate, confusing structure designed and built by the legendary person Daedalus for King Minos of Crete. Its function was to hold the Minotaur, the monster eventually killed by the hero Theseus. Daedalus had so cunningly made the labyrinth that he could barely escape it after he built it. So it was meant to confuse people. Exhilaration, that's a big long word. A feeling of excitement, happiness, or elation. So when you're exhilarated, you're like happy, you're on cloud nine. So now here's the myth. And I'm going to read it to you. Please follow along so that you see how these words are said and how they're spelled. Okay? So we're going to start at the top. This is a Greek myth. Daedalus and Icarus. And you'll notice the picture here. There's somebody with wings on their back. So up at the top, King Minos, the ruler of Crete, had a problem. To solve it, he needed the help of Daedalus, a very talented architect and inventor. Minos sent for Daedalus. I want you to build something beneath my palace, said the king. I need a maze with passages that twist and turn so much that no one can find a way out. I will call it my labyrinth. So the next paragraph, paragraph 2. When the labyrinth was finished, Minos was relieved. His problem was solved. He now had a place where he could safely keep the Minotaur, a horrible creature that was part bull and part man. The king put the Minotaur into his maze. Then he forced 7 young men and 7 maidens to enter this dark, winding place. They were to be the food for this monster that only ate human flesh. The next year, Minos sent 14 more victims into the maze. Paragraph 3. After several years of this cruelty, a brave young man named Theseus volunteered to be enclosed in the labyrinth. The heroic youth killed the Minotaur. He found his way out through the confusing tangles of the maze and fled from Crete on a ship. So Theseus actually killed this half bull, half man creature that was not supposed to be able to be killed. Minos was furious. He was sure that Daedalus must have helped Theseus escape from the labyrinth. Only its builder, the king reasoned, understood the plan of the maze. Minos called for his soldiers. Lock Daedalus and his son Icarus in the palace tower, he shouted. Poor Daedalus and Icarus. There was little to do but gaze out the window and feed the birds that flew into their room. But one day Daedalus exclaimed to his son, I have an idea. We'll fly away just as the birds do. You'll help me, Icarus. We'll make wings. Day after day they plucked a few feathers from each bird that flew in to visit them. At last they had enough, and Daedalus set to work. He fashioned each wing by arranging feathers into 3 overlapping rows. Then he joined the feathers together with small dabs of softened wax, almost like candle wax. When all 4 wings were finished, he bent each one so that it curved just like the wings of a bird. Stay close to me, Daedalus advised his son, and don't fly too high, or the heat of the sun will melt the wax that's holding the feathers in place. So just so you know, that's foreshadowing. That's kind of letting you know, I'm telling you not to do this because something might happen. So let's look at the last paragraph. Daedalus and Icarus put on their wings, took off from the window ledge, and flew out over the sea. At first, Icarus carefully followed behind his father, but soon he became filled with the exhilaration of flying. He glided on currents of air. He swooped down toward the sea, and then he rose back up, forgetting his father's warning. Icarus soared higher and higher. Boldly he flew even nearer to the blazing hot sun. Suddenly the feathers of his wings began to come apart and flutter away. His father cried out to him, but there was nothing Daedalus could do but watch sadly as his son plunged into the sea, followed by a scattering of feathers. So that's the end of the story. You'll also know that most myths have a message or a lesson to be learned. I'm thinking that maybe Icarus should have totally listened to his dad, like all children should listen to their parents. So what you're going to do is you're going to please click on the Google form. You're going to complete the questions related to the myth. If you need to go back and re-listen to the story and instruction, do that. Please use the text to help you answer the questions. Use text evidence to support your answers. So if you're not sure, do not guess. Go back to the passage in the slide before, and please try to look for your answers. Maybe go back, re-listen to the story, and make sure you have a clear picture in your head of what is happening again as a second read through. Here's the link for the Google form. It's also loaded in your Google Classroom. Please go back and forth to the text and check your answers. So now tomorrow, there will be a story about Icarus told in the future. So it'll be similar, but futuristic. So be sure to go back in and click Turn In. Okay? Have a great day, readers.